Italian Football Podcast.
Let's talk about now Francesco Pio Esposito. Let's do a profile on him because we have a lot of people asking about him. All about him, like his qualities, his background, just how good he could become. So seeing as Nima is his biggest fanboy, we thought we'd get Nima to do a profile on Francesco Pio Esposito. So who is Francesco Pio Esposito, Nima?
Well, he was born on the 28th of June in 2005 in Castellammare di Stabia, just outside of Naples. So he just turned 20. He's the younger brother of Salvatore and Sebastiano. He joined Brescia with his brothers at the age of 6. He moved to Inter with his brothers in 2014 when he was at the age of 9. And he's played for all of Inter's kid and youth teams all the way up to the first team. He started his career as a trequartista. He's 191 centimeters tall now. He weighs 81 kilograms now, of which 10 to 12 kilograms is just a muscle increase in the last 12 months at Spezia in Serie B alone, which is where he had his breakthrough last season, something that listeners of this podcast will know, as I was raving lyrically about him all last season. He also played 3 out of 5 matches the Italy under-19 team that won the Euros in 2023. And speaking about Spezia, ahead of that 23-24 season, after the Euros, he featured, he moved to Spezia on loan. He featured 38 matches, scoring 3 goals. He was actually named after that season the best player of the Serie B in the Gran Gala del Calcio, or the Calcio Oscars, as it's known locally and colloquially. Then the loan was extended, and last season he exploded. He scored 19 goals in all comps for Spezia, especially after putting on those 10, 12 kilos of muscles. When after the season it started, losing absolutely none of his speed, none of his movement and dynamism. He just made him stronger and almost impossible to stop, especially with his back to goal, holding off defenders. He signed a contract extension with Inter in April of earlier this year in 2025. It sees him tied to the club until the end of June 2030. And he's earning around 1 million net per season. One thing that I think is so interesting with him is that he doesn't give up many offensive fouls, but he draws many fouls. He forces players to drag him down. He creates space for himself and others. He is a lethal finisher. He's a classic Italian prima punta, but just very, very dynamic. I mean, he ran the most out of all Inter players in the win against Ajax, 11.57 kilometers. I think as to his potential, the sky's the limit given the trajectory he's on. Or as his brother Salvatore said of them growing up and playing together, that they always say that the youngest is always the best one. This last summer, Napoli and Conte wanted him, offering 35 million in euros in May, but Inter and Chievo refused it, as reported by good friend of the show, Alfredo Pedolà, who added that also Man United wanted him last January, as did Atalanta this last summer when Inter came knocking for Lookman. Christian Chievo acknowledging that he has known him since he was 9 years old and branding him a real man, or an uomo vero, after the Ajax win. Look, as for comparisons, personally, I hate making comparisons to other players, especially after that stupid journalist in England misquoted and misrepresented what I said about Casadei to Thomas Tuchel at Chelsea. But based on what others have said,
Remind us on that. What
we did a profile on Casadei when he joined Chelsea, and I said that he has characteristics that are reminiscent of Frank Lampard, and this stupid woman went and told Thomas Tuchel and said, in Italy, they're saying he's the new Lampard, which pissed me off to no end.
What did Tuchel say?
Well, he started laughing and said, maybe we should just calm down and give the kid some chance. But
who was that woman?
I don't know. I don't care. I saw the video and it pissed me off. But regardless, moving on from that stupid comment, based on what others have said, namely Balzaretti and Stramaccioni, they've branded him as being very similar to Luca Toni, especially Luca Toni at Palermo. Serie A commentator Trevisani calls him a mix of Luca Toni and Edin Dzeko. His agent and Zvonimir Boban, Milan legend, draw comparisons with Dzeko. And he himself says he's very inspired by Edin Dzeko, but that Luca Toni was his boyhood idol. Personally, I'm not a big fan of, this talking point of new Messi, new Ronaldo, this, new that. I think he has traits that are reminiscent of Toni, Dzeko, and Vieri. In my opinion, the goal that best showcases this and his talent and potential and ability is the goal he scored in the Club World Cup, or the assists that never were, for both Calhanoglu and Thuram against, neither of those plays ending with a goal, although the Chala shot led to a corner, which Thuram scored the second goal, both of those against Ajax in the Champions League this last week. But power, strength, killer instinct, dynamism, hold up and link up. He's a complete striker in terms of his character, in terms of the characteristics he possesses. Now he just has to do it week in, week out, and be able to mentally handle being benched, as he inevitably will be at Inter, given the fierce competition that Inter have in attack. But his mentality and maturity have so far been very, very impressive. And if he continues down this path, and if he can stay injury-free, then in the not-so-distant future, it is highly likely, if he continues like this, that we are talking about the next starter, not just for Italy, but also for Inter. And in that, in a role that has been much maligned for the Azzurri, namely the number 9 role, and perhaps for the next decade.
Yeah, I think, who he reminds me of, actually? He reminds me, I like the Dzeko comparison. He reminds me of a very young Harry Kane. Harry Kane before he exploded. Harry Kane when he was just starting with Tottenham, and he went on a few loan spells, and I just like the way that I like just his build as well. He's similar kind of height, but the way that he's comfortable coming deep for the ball, protecting it, playing up, bringing others in. But you can see that he's got that killer instinct, and you can see that he can shoot both feet. He's going to score. You can see that once he has that breakthrough and he gets that first goal, if he's playing regularly, which obviously is difficult because he's got Thuram and Lautaro, but once he scores and gets some regular time, you can see that the goals are going to flow. You can see that in him, and
you really can. And if you saw that game against Sassuolo, I mean, so many finishes that he just out of nothing, and the fact that he is the player he is, he works well with both Lautaro and Thuram, and Boni and the rest. So he gives Inter an attacking option that they absolutely have not had for a very long time, since Lukaku, the first Lukaku under Conte. That is something that Inter will find very useful. And I have to say again, as I tweeted out yesterday, is it a risk to build around a 20 and 21-year-old with only previous experience in the Serie B and the Croatian league? Yes. Is it worth that risk? Absolutely. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It could fail. He could be injured. Hopefully not. God willing. Football, God's willing. But I think Sucic and Esposito are the future, and Inter have to build around them. It really is that simple. I really think the talent they have, the qualities they have, it is right to ease them in and to play them like Kivu has done. Don't play them 3 times a week and burn them out, but ease them in. Maybe in lesser games like Ajax, like Sassuolo, to build up their confidence, make them feel more comfortable. Ease them in. They need to be nurtured, because
would you play him for Italy now?
They are two diamonds in the rough. There is no doubt.
Would you play Esposito straight away for Italy, like in these games coming up in October, November?
Well, I mean, okay, well, it depends.
Put it this way: considering the fact that, like, we know that Israel are about to get banned from football, so there's.
Well, I wouldn't hold my breath, but okay.
Well, it seems that way from what we're hearing. Italy will. The point I'm making is Italy 100% going to, even if if you do hold your breath or don't hold your breath, Italy is still going to be in the playoffs. So should we just give players like Esposito a chance for Italy now? Or is that, I mean, I think he can handle the pressure. He seems like a level-headed guy. He seems like someone that if you put him straight in the Italy team now, it's not going to backfire like maybe it has in some other players like Santon or players like that, where they were given too much before they were maybe mentally ready for it.
No, I think mentally he's strong enough, but I just don't want to burn him out. I don't want to overload him. I want to give him and Sucic the chance to ease into Inter and to the Italy national side. I think he should definitely be in the squad, in the Italy squad. There's no doubt about that. But with Retegui doing what he's doing for Italy and what he's doing also in Saudi, you have to give Retegui the nod. Then how you ease him and get him into the system, and I want them to nurture him. This is potentially a huge player. Finally, a world-class number 9 potentially for Italy and Inter, and so this needs to be he needs to be nurtured. And one thing he does do is you can play a 3-4-2-1 with him. In games where Inter are chasing a goal, it is now very Lautaro Thuram behind him with Sucic Barella or Sucic Calhanoglu as a double pivot. That is now a very clear option.
He's tactically quite flexible, isn't he? He looks like the kind of guy that you can play him as the one, whether that be a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, whether you want to play him in a 2. And if you do play him in a 2, he seems like the kind of guy who is quite adaptable with regards to who he plays with. So whether you play him next to a number 9, he can play next to him because he's actually capable of coming a little bit deeper. Or you can play him as the number 9 and play him next to a more support striker type of player 100%. And let him be the front end. And that's really important for any manager to have that player where you know that he's adaptable. And I'll give the comparison. We're going to talk about Juventus. Like with Juventus at the moment, Juventus have three number 9s, let's say, at the moment, in Vlahovic, Openda, and Jonathan David. Now, if Juventus, whether they're playing a front 2 or they're playing a 2-1, I have doubts at the moment whether any of those players can really coexist together in the same team because of their attributes, because of the kind of... And that's a huge problem for Juventus because they've gone out and bought 2 strikers and they already still have Vlahovic and they can only play one of them at one time to really make it tactically work. I might end up being proven wrong, but that's from what I'm seeing so far. I have question marks whether these 3 players, they can play, 2 of them can play together. Now, when you've got someone like Esposito, who can basically play with any other striker or attacker, it becomes a huge weapon. And it's very, very important to have those kind of players in your as part of your attack. Yeah. So I think that also is why I think...
Yeah, exactly. But he is a diamond in the rough, and we have to remember that, just like Petar Sucic is. And I think we have to remember that. We need to give them time. We need to give them time to make mistakes, to learn from them, to ease them in. And I really like how he's been managed so far by Christian Kibu. That I have to say. He's been very good at handling both of these 2 players.
Yeah. The last thing I want to say about this is, I think I might have told this story before, but it's just one of my favorite stories of history. The history behind the name Esposito. Now, Esposito is a Neapolitan name. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's the most popular name in Naples or in Campania. And the reason why Esposito is so popular is because this name was given to all orphan children throughout, like, over the centuries. If you were an orphan kid, you were given the name Esposito. I think Esposito, it comes from the word espositi, which means kind of abandoned or exposed. So if you were an orphan child, you had no parents, or you were abandoned, you went into an orphanage, you were given the name Esposito. So obviously over history, over the years, there's been so many people in Naples or there's been lots of kids who were in orphans, they were given the name Esposito. So that's why I know the reason I know that is because our cleaner at the cake shop, La Rondine, her name's Ida. she's from Naples. She's Esposito, Ida Esposito. So she told us the history. She goes, that's where my name comes from. Someone in my family, before was an orphan, and they obviously they went on to have families, and so yeah, that will be the same with Esposito. I think it's a great story. I love that story.
Yeah, I like that too. I like that too. It's interesting, etymology and names and origin of words.
Yeah.